We have grown to see a pattern with Donald. When he's worried, when he's upset, when he's scared, he reacts predictably. Even for Donald, though, he reached a new low. It's one thing to try to attack another candidate. It's another thing to come after my wife.
So that is the fight between Ted Cruz and Donald Trump. Uglier by the day, the candidates' wives now being pulled into the fray. Trump angry about an ad showing a semi-nude photo of his wife, Melania. He retaliated, tweeting that he would, quote, spill the beans on Cruz's wife, Heidi. This is the Facebook ad that started it all. This was about 2 days ago from a super PAC. So after that came out, Trump upped the ante last night, retweeting this photo of Heidi Cruz side by side with Melania Trump. And on it goes. Howard Kurtz, Fox News media analyst, host of Media Buzz here on the Fox News channel. You got all that, Howie? I mean,
I'm following it breathlessly.
What do you think?
Well, it's kind of amazing the campaign has gotten down to the level of locker room taunts, but there's no way not to cover this story. And sometimes, Bill, these personal dust-ups can be revealing of character. Now, I understand that Donald Trump wants to defend his wife. By the way, that picture you just showed of her from an old GQ photo sheet has been on the Internet about a zillion times by my count, so it's not exactly new information. But he tweeted first and asked questions later. Actually, he tweeted, then he deleted the tweet, and then he doubled down after other people found the tweet. Because this tiny super PAC, this anti-Trump super PAC that put that image up that you just showed, has nothing to do with Ted Cruz's campaign.
The ad aired in Utah, right?
Oh, yes, that's correct.
And the objective was to go after the Mormon vote, allegedly, and take them away from Trump and give them to Ted Cruz. Just to recapture this, though, Howie, it started with the super PAC, right? And what Trump has said from the very beginning is that if you pick a fight with me, I'm going to hit back 10 times harder. And that's what brings us to today, 48 hours later.
Right, but it's arguable that he's hitting the wrong target since it wasn't the Cruz campaign, and Cruz would be crazy to go after Melania Trump. And so, you know, but here we are, and they're sniping back and forth, and is very much part of the story. Now, when Trump says he's going to spill the beans on Heidi Cruz, naturally there's a lot of media speculation. Well, what might those beans be? And there's some talk that it could have to do with her acknowledged bout of depression about a decade ago, but that's been reported by the New York Times and others. This is a gift for Ted Cruz because he gets to dial up the outrage meter to present it as an example of Donald Trump's temperament.
That's interesting. You think it helps Cruz?
I think on balance it doesn't help anybody because most people looking at this are going to say, hey, we just had a terrorist attack in Belgium. We have all these serious issues facing the country, and you guys are engaging in this towel snapping stuff. So on balance, I don't think it helps anybody. But clearly, Cruz could have let it go. He's decided to use this, to seize on it as an example of Donald Trump maybe being a little too quick to throw charges because, after all, it wasn't Cruz that made an issue of Melania. Now, you mentioned in the tease, you know, our spouses fair game. Look, when they're out there campaigning with their husbands, when they're doing interviews, Heidi Trump very much so, Melania Trump less so, then they are fair game for what they say, and obviously they're potential first ladies. But this kind of stuff, I'm sure most Americans would say, just take it out in the alley. I don't want to hear about it.
A towel snap. But we're a long way from the Washington cartel, Howie. When you look at how the media is approaching this story, what do you find?
Well, what I find is it's absolute catnip. And at a time when a lot of complicated issues and we've all been obsessed with the delegate math, here's a story that combines sex, taunts, Twitter, of course, being an important part of Donald Trump's campaign. It's how he communicates a lot of messages to millions of followers. Let's just say that nobody had to be browbeaten into covering this story. It's a diversion from the more serious stuff, and ultimately it probably produces a lot of clicks and maybe even a ratings bump for those covering it.
Do you think the media has been fair on this, or do you find a shade here or there?
I do think the media have been fair in pointing out, you know, how this got started, who's to blame, and all of that. But, you know, there comes a point where it just is salacious stuff. And while I do think, you know, as we saw with Marco Rubio and Donald Trump exchanging insults and how embarrassing that got for everybody, it did have an impact on the campaign and probably helped hasten Senator Rubio's exit. I think there may be a character test here, but mostly it's a fun, salacious story.
I take your point that there's no room for this, but this is what happens in campaigns. And you've got 8 months to go, Howie. There will be more.
Certainly, for example, if it were to be Donald Trump against Hillary Clinton, Trump has already made moves in the direction of talking about Bill Clinton's past misconduct. I mean, look, this is what gets people engaged in campaigns. It also gives us a glimpse, when they get off the talking points and the 10-point issue plans, gives us a glimpse into what these people are really like. Are they thin-skinned? Do they lash out? And in that sense, it's part of modern American political campaign.
I think most voters, if not all, would say you got to defend your family. Howie Kurtz, thank you, sir. See you on Sunday on Media Buzz. Howard Kurtz in D.C. Nice.